Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this pensions webinar about the Teachers' Pension Scheme. So I'd like to say welcome to all of our members who are in this scheme, including FE and post-92 universities. I'd like to welcome Seamus as well, who is our British Sign Language interpreter. So we're here to hear from UCU's pensions officer, Christine Haswell. She's going to be talking about the government consultation that has been launched of the public sector pension scheme following the age discrimination case taken by the Fire Brigades Union. So the webinar is going to last a maximum of 45 minutes. And it will be available on the UCU YouTube channel afterwards. I'm never off there, let me tell you. And we've decided, instead of taking kind of complicated individual questions, we're going to let Christine just explain what the situation is, because we've only got limited time. But as you'll see at the bottom of the screen, you can contact the pensions department with any questions, individual or collective, that you've got. And that is the idea, really, that this is the start of a discussion, and this isn't the end. So I'll talk to you about where we go from here at the end of the webinar. Right, so I'm going to attempt to use the share screen option now. So I will hand over to Christine first. So welcome, Christine.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to this today. As Janet says, we're going to have an overview of the public sector pension consultation with specific focus on the teachers' pension scheme, but this is also relevant to members of local government, NHS, civil service, and quite a number of the schemes. The first slide, which we'll see shortly, is giving us the link to the teachers' pension latest page on the UCU website, and if you look at that, you will find that there's a lot of briefings which I've been putting out over the period running up to this consultation, and the main consultation link, which after this you might want to go and have a look at, because it gives some worked out examples which some of you might find useful. So I think it's also important to know that when the consultation has started and finished, and our submission has gone in, that our submission will be posted on that teachers' pension latest web page alongside, and hopefully some of your comments after today inform what we say in that consultation. So without further ado, we'll move to slide 2, and I'll give you a background of how we've ended up here. So the age discrimination. What happened was that going back to 2010, there was start of consultation between government and unions. And these talks went on literally for years. I do feel like it's been a very large proportion of my lifetime, but it's not really, just feels like that. And by 2012, we were told that there were going to be 2 key planks of new reformed schemes in the public sector. All the schemes were going to be reformed in 2015, apart from local government, which was going a year earlier. No specific reason, that just happened. That's the way it worked out. And the 2 main planks were going to be career average and a link to state pension age. Now, in 2012, the unions collectively were not happy with the idea, particularly of a link to state pension age, but also expressed concerns about people who were near pension age at the time of the discussions or at the time of the introduction of the new schemes. There was a wider political agenda. You must remember this was the time of the coalition government. So the offer was made by the government of protection for those within 10 years of their scheme pension age. And this offer was made in 2012, even though the schemes weren't going to reform for another 3 years. This is why we have the key dates, the 10-year protection going from 2012 to 2022. Now, in the teacher scheme, protection meant that people could stay in the what you call legacy scheme, in the old final salary, as we would call it, until pension age. So people who were 50 in 2012 at that appropriate date could then stay in the final salary scheme for the next 10 years until they were 60 and could take their pension. Didn't have to, but that was the protection. People, of course, then worried about an arbitrary cut-off. What if your birthday was one day before? What if you were born at midnight? What if you were born at 11:55? And people did write in letters like that to pension officials all across the movement. So it was then that protection was extended, not as good protection, but there was a transitional or tapered protection for those who were closer to that. Went on for a few years. So many of you watching this may well have some reform or new career average pension and some final salary pension that went on past 2015, and those are transitional members. This didn't work in the same way in all the public sector schemes, but generally that was the gist of it, that protection was given to those older members who were in the scheme a long time. Now, not everybody was happy about this, and this was deemed unlawful age discrimination. But this was the government's idea. It wasn't like anybody asked for age discrimination. This was not only legal, but embedded into the 2013 Pension Acts. However, court cases have gone on since then. If we can have the next slide, please. So this age discrimination has to be remedied, and the remedy period, which keeps coming up as a phrase in the consultation, starts on the 1st of April 2015, because that deemed to be when the new schemes were began, reform schemes, the career average. Obviously, in local government, the dates are slightly different. It's just a year's difference. So the first people to challenge, as Janet said in the introduction, were the firefighters. They'd had a particularly good scheme for firefighters that will acknowledge the fact that because of the nature of their work, they had tended to finish work younger than many other workers, totally understandably. And for them, moving to state pension age, absolute shocker in that, physically, a lot of the firefighters would not be able to do the full range of duties. So they were very unhappy about that, and they wanted to take it to court. The other group of people who, at this point, while we'd been negotiating, we never heard much about, were the judges. So 2 cases went to court before, around 2016-17. And the firefighters lost their initial court case, but the judges, whose case was heard by a young judge, won. What a surprise. So obviously we were left legally with 2 cases that contradicted each other. So the England and Wales Court of Appeal put those cases together, and as you can see from the screen, they ruled that the reforms were unlawful against younger members of the scheme because they were going to have to work on longer in the reform scheme. Now, in the specific cases of the firefighters and the judges, that was a clear case of discrimination. However, in the teacher scheme, many younger workers are better off in the career average scheme, because the career average scheme in the teachers accrues benefits, builds up benefits much, much faster than the old final salary scheme. So it could be that workers in the old final salary scheme, if they're thinking about working on past 60, might be better off in the new scheme. It's not as clear cut in the teachers as it is in the two cases. However, the government refused the right to appeal on these cases, and the remedy is just going to apply right across the public sector. But because the remedy, it isn't clear that one scheme is better than the other, choices are going to have to be made by individuals. Can we have the next slide, please? So now this consultation in 2020 is ongoing to determine what remedy the government wants to have to eliminate age discrimination. And it's a rather unusual kind of remedy, and it doesn't involve money in terms of you getting more money as in cash. It's a pension remedy, so therefore by definition has to be complicated. Basically everyone, not just the people who were discriminated against, younger members, everyone is going to be given a choice. So when I say everyone, I mean active members who are working currently in the scheme, deferred members. These are people who have left the employment of the teachers scheme or whichever public sector scheme it is, and have left their pension in the scheme but are working elsewhere, and people who have retired and taken their pension, and even they're even looking at any dependents of deceased members of the scheme as well, who may get some remedy. All in all, across the public sector, 3 million people are going to be affected by this. And I think if there hadn't been all the other things going on in the world, we might have heard more about it in the news because it's such a big thing. Now, the two choices that the government are looking at are, and are consulting on, immediate choice, and this is where you, the member, actually decides for the remedy period, I want all my service to be looked at as a final salary, or I want all my service to be looked at as the new scheme. At the end of the remedy period, currently April 2022, everybody moves to the new scheme. Now, the second choice is the same choice, whether the remedy period service is going to be moved, if it's going to be moved, or if you're going to leave it where it is, if it's either going to be in the legacy scheme, final salary, or whether it's going to be moved to the new scheme. But you make that choice not in 2022, as in immediately. Only government could see 2022 slipping into 2023 as being immediate, but making this choice when you're coming up to retirement. Can we have the next slide, please? So how do you choose? We, UCU, and the other unions have all asked that members are provided with advice at the time, proper financial advice. Because some people, this can make a difference to their pension, quite, hopefully a beneficial difference. It certainly, you shouldn't lose out. The worst case scenario is that if you make the wrong choice, you would have been where you would have been if there'd been no choices. But obviously, we want to help everyone make the best choice for them to maximise the benefits in a scheme that they have been paying for. So when do you want to make that choice? And this is the sort of feedback I'd like to hear. Would you like to make that choice soon and have certainty that that period, 2015 to 2022, is definitely in the final salary scheme or definitely in the career average scheme, come what may, whatever happens after 2022, however long I work? I know it's there, it's banked, I have certainty. Or would you rather come up to retirement, choose to retire because of other reasons, and then say, well, right, I want to retire now, I am 65, I want to look at my options. Would I be better off in the reform scheme all this time, the new career average, or would I have been better off in the final salary for that period? I want to make my choice now. Now I know what I know about when I'm leaving. The unions generally have been going down the second route. TUC has as well. We think that people are more likely to want that to make that decision in the context of retirement decisions. A couple of other unions, teaching unions, don't. They're pushing for the immediate certainty. So there's not a right or a wrong answer, but I would like to hear your feedback. Can we have the next slide, please? Another thing that was slipped into the consultation was the cost. Up until now, the cost of this exercise, because it's a legal case, was seen to be something that the government should pay. After all, they were the one that made the mistake. However, they dropped in a small aside that the cost of this exercise will be taken out of the 2016 scheme valuation, which could mean contributions increasing for members, for employers, and also is very unfair because, as you remember from previous information that we've put out, that teachers' pension scheme members were due to have a benefit improvement from that scheme valuation, not any detriment, but actually an improvement because of the way the scheme was valued. So to redo that valuation with the cost of this exercise, which would be massive, just the administrative cost, let alone the improved benefits to members' cost, improved pensions, is enormous. And we are fighting very much. And even this morning, I was involved with the TUC protesting against this cost being laid at the door of members. We also think that members should have, as I say, more information about making these choices. And we also are concerned about what should be the default for people who don't make a choice. I understand that many people may feel, given a letter through the letterbox or an email or however it is, make this choice, they don't know, they'll do nothing. Well, what's the default if they do nothing? The TUC argue that someone should make that choice for them to their benefit. There's a but there, because how will they know, whoever's making the choice, when the person wants to retire? How would you know what is going to be their benefit? You'd have to make an assumption about their pension age. But given record keeping in many of these big public sector schemes, and I know the teachers' pensions have improved over the last few years, but still there'll be a lot of people who won't get the choice because the records, they won't have an up-to-date address and that kind of thing. So the person might never actually get asked, and that choice be made for them one way or another, and it might not be the right one. So if you do nothing else after this video, do log on to My Teachers Pensions. Make sure they've got your up-to-date details for all sorts of reasons, but not least that if you do, when you do get to make your choice, that they know where to contact you about it. So these are a number of issues that we are dealing with at the moment. So can we have the next question, please? Next slide, please. Sorry. Right. So I asked the Government's Actuary Department, what are the two main factors to consider when individuals are making, when you are making your choice? And they were the same two factors that I thought were important as well. And one is pay increases. Final salary schemes are very much geared around a 1970s pattern of work. People start at the bottom of a career path and go up and up the career ladder and reach the top, and then they retire on a final salary, which is good, and all their service is calculated at that final salary. And this benefits people who work for 40 years, who don't have breaks, and whose career path goes up. That is paid for by the bulk of the people who don't have all the promotions, who might dip in and out of work because they have career breaks, because they go part-time, because they've gone elsewhere and come back. So equality-wise, final salary schemes aren't great. Now, for many people in final salary schemes who don't have the high career paths, who don't have increasing pay, good pay rises, whether promotion or salary pay rises, final salary isn't great for those people. And the other, and to me, more important factor to consider would be the age of retirement. Some people think that your retirement age and your pension age is the same thing, because it always was. You know, everybody worked until they hit retirement age, and then they left with a clock. These days, like that might be what a lot of people would like to do. But what tends to happen now is that, certainly for the people in the final salary scheme, they have a pension age of 60. They then work on past 60 because of whatever reason, up to them. But they don't work on as long as 66, which is the current state pension age, and they retire somewhere in between. For those people, it might be that having the remedy period in the career average scheme might be better, because they've gone past their pension age in the final salary scheme. So that hasn't helped them. But they've been building up with the quicker career average. So it's not always clear cut which scheme is better. But if you want to, if you're in the final salary scheme and you want to leave at it, and that's got a 60 age or 65 for some people, and you want to leave at that time, then it's generally better to be in that scheme. Because if you're in a new scheme, although the benefits are built up quicker, because the link is to state pension age, you would have to take a reduction in benefits by going early. You could lose out that way. So whenever it is you want to go, you're going to have to make these calculations. And we believe somebody should be doing that for you, give you two figures and say, this is a figure in the final salary, this is a figure in the career average. You're going to, you want to go now, pick the higher figure. That should be how it is. Now, we will do our utmost to make sure that's how simple it is going to be for you. I think, because otherwise it's really unfair to ask ordinary members of schemes to make these sort of nuanced decisions. Now, I'm not giving you financial advice in this. I'm giving you general guidance. It will really depend on individual circumstances, and for some people, financial advice is necessary. For other people, it will be kind of obvious. If you're going to work on to 67, then the reform scheme is very likely to be the better one, and so on. But because for most people it'll be somewhere in the middle, then this is why we need a proper nuanced, information to be given to you. So, really, I think it's quite important that you consider issues. And also, do you want to revisit all this? If you have already retired and things, if you've gone, say, a year after the reform scheme came in, it's highly unlikely that changing that final year would make much or if any difference. So as I say, individual circumstances are important. Can we have the next slide, please? All right, what happens next? So the consultation will be considered, and this could take, given what's going on, COVID, Brexit and so on, it's probably going to be the new year, possibly, before we get any news about which immediate or deferred choice option the government's gone for. Talks will continue with the unions via the TUC and with schemes, and UCU is I am on the scheme advisory board. UCU has a trustee on the teachers pension scheme as a UCU representative, Chris Jones from our FEC, and through the unions, obviously, there's many people there who will be attending meetings on this from UCU. So depending when the choice is given, immediate or deferred, and this whole issue around costs, then UCU will be continuing to press for the improvement in benefits promised and the cost to be met by government, not members. One issue which I think is important for you to know is that some unions have taken a legal case about this against the government, and UCU are an interested party in that legal case. So we will get the benefits if they win of that legal case, but that is ongoing at the moment as well. So we're fighting on many fronts to make sure that you get the best outcome from this rather bizarre situation. And so you've got to make, there's no choices being made at the moment. 2022 possibly slipping into 2023, will be the earliest you will have to make a choice, and it could be when you retire, which is quite a bit later for many of you. We will make sure you get information. Certainly, if you want just to have general guidance, do email me and my colleague at pensions@ucu.org.uk. I will continue to give updates to both the HCC and the FEC, and we would welcome your comments about what kind of solutions you would like to see. And we will be working with the other unions. We're not in isolation here. This is a public sector wide issue, and we will continue working together with the other public sector workers and their unions. Thank you, and I'll hand you back to Janet.
Thank you so much, Christine. Found that really useful and informative. I have actually learnt loads in that. It is complicated, isn't it? So thank you so much for laying that all out. I just want to reiterate before we finish. In fact, there's something that I forgot to do at the beginning, which I've never forgotten to do. I'm always like talking about myself. I've not even told you who I am. So for those of you who don't know, my name's Janet Farrer and I'm President-elect of UCU. So apologies for not introducing myself. That was incredibly rude. Coming back to the pensions issue, this is not the end of the discussion. As I mentioned earlier, it really is an ongoing conversation, as Christine has so clearly laid out. We wanted our members to know what's going on, but there might be other aspects that you want to see discussed in a future webinar, and that's certainly something that we're open to if you just let us know via the pensions email that's been going around your screen. Also, any questions and comments that you have, as Christine laid out. We really do want our members to be, as informed and as involved as possible in this. So you've got an early mark from us. I'll say thank you very much once again to Christine and to David, who's in the background doing all the tech stuff, and of course to Seamus for his excellent interpreting. Take care.